we wanted to start this case clinic because, well, to be honest, to do something fun. You know, we have lots of projects which are evolve around employee experience nowadays, and we are very happy about that. But we kind of felt like, you know, also lockdown and all that, that we want to create a community again, like reach out to our friends and meet new facilitators or people that have to do with EX, and just, you know, be again out there, because I know we have been busy in the last year with the project and we didn't do so much on LinkedIn. So we kind of missed that. When we have done this 2 years ago, it was really nice, actually. And so we just started this, okay, what can we do? What can we give? What can we do really well? How can we help the community? And we're like, okay, workshops, because that's most of our work. No, it's like design and stuff. It's always collaboratively bringing people together, stuff like that. So we are really good at that. And yes, and I hope that just, you know, we can do this in a routine every week or every 2 weeks or something like that, and just get together and just brainstorm and have a free exchange of knowledge and just share and have a good time. So it's like, there's no agenda here. We're not trying to sell our online course or a book.
What? You don't have a book?
No. First off, don't have a book. No more online course as well. So it's like, it's just pure joy. I don't know.
Yeah,
okay, so maybe that's like... an NFT you're referring to.
Exactly. Please subscribe to our NFT collection
of agendas, digital agendas. Hey, might not be a bad idea though.
And yeah, so I started this call, and also we got a case for today. So it's fantastic. We're just gonna work on this because I think it's a really nice challenge. But before we start, do you want to say something?
Well, the only thing, we have this idea of recording these sessions and putting them in YouTube for people just to understand, like, no, when you're Googling about stuff, maybe they can find some inspiration there about how you create agendas, like the thought process behind, because I feel like this is very helpful for people, you know, especially like when you watch these YouTube videos of people telling you how they do things, this has very helpful for me. So this is our idea. But we are mindful of privacy. So if you don't feel comfortable with appearing there, you can turn off your camera and raise your name from the screen. And we can just have an open conversation without the fear of, I don't know, you've been posting without wanting. So having said that, how do we start, Julius?
I will present the case. So Luisa sent us this challenge, and basically it's about having a company-wide retrospective of the culture, of leadership strategies, of team dynamics, and they work very agile. It's the MVP Factory. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. In Berlin, they do they create digital products for big companies. So like they are kind of a, it's not really an agency, but they create apps and yeah, digital services and products. And there are 30 people. And she said, the problem is they have employee surveys and stuff like that, but nobody really fills out that stuff. So, and she kind of observed that, in workshops, people get together very nicely and they open up, and there's a lot more insights coming out of there than just having to fill in these employee surveys, which are, again, a little bit general sometimes and also like hardly filled in. So she was wondering, how could one do that in a workshop? And I thought this was it's a really nice employee experience problem, also challenge.
Yes.
To do that. And we thought of the workshop clinic, like the agenda for today is basically, now that we have the case, we will kind of present what we think about that, how we would do it for like 15 minutes, and then we get into breakout groups. I don't think we need that today. But then I have just, have a brainstorming with everybody that is here and just add on ideas and stuff like that and share. Because
I think what is interesting is I have this idea of having a collection of many, many different things of how to do the same thing. Like because it's a retrospective, but you can do it in so many ways. And this is what I'm curious about, because also I feel like one great opportunity that this format provides is that you can see different methods and learn new methods. And this is why we are doing this kind of crowdsourcing sort of thing. So having the case, how do we start?
How do we start? Well, I will share my screen so you can also see like the kind of, can you see that? Fantastic. And also, can you post the board into the chat?
Yes.
So basically, this is the rough edges of the case. And well, we're just gonna talk about how we would do it. I mean, we have done something similar for another organization. So it's about team retrospectives. And the first thing that came to my mind when I heard the case or when I read this is that instead of doing it all like there are 30 people, it's like a fairly small company, but I still wouldn't do it in like one big workshop or like once a year or something when they get in an offsite or get together all in the same room. But I would do it as like a constant practice, or like having these things constantly throughout the year, and not with everybody at the same time, but maybe only with like triads, you know, make groups of 3 throughout the company that get together by random, mix them from different teams, and have like a series of these kind of get-togethers that are also not very long, but maybe like 1.5 hours throughout the year, where they kind of explore these sorry, different topics, like how well is the team dynamic in in your team working, how would you describe it, how well is it working for you? So kind of they also you know, cross the borders between the different teams.
Yes, I thought about it. Like my first question was, should this be virtual or on-site? Like, because since now this is kind of like the question that is popping around with everything that we do. And then that's how the idea came about. What about if you integrate it in the ways of working, and it can be both? So if you go to the office, you have a dedicated space where you can provide this feedback, but also if you are working from home, there is a dedicated board where you can do that as well. And the idea is, as you just said, to integrate it in the ways of working and do it something more of like a pulse survey sort of thing, where people can just comment when they feel like it. Besides that, so the on-site, off-site, I think that was my main thought. And also the topic of what methods to use. So I felt like, since surveys are sometimes very dry and it's a lot about evaluation, and actually when you do a survey, you want to know is the why people feel like the engagement is 3 and not 10, you know. So I feel like this workshop style kind of thing, or method wise, a kind of pulse survey, can be a good opportunity also for whomever is doing it to get the why behind the data. So thinking about that, I came up with this idea of using one of these retro methods. There are tons of them. Actually, there is a website that I love that is called Fun Retrospectives. I will share the link at the end, because they have so many methods about how can you do a retrospective in different ways, also depending on what type of information you want to get. So brainstorming about that, I thought that this method it's called the CALM method. So basically what you keep, what you, I forgot the acronym.
CALM, keep, add, less, more.
Keep, add, less, more. Yes, exactly. And the idea, you know, acronyms sometimes are good, but sometimes you forget what they stand for.
Let's do it calmly.
Let's do it calmly. So I don't know, Julie, if you want to draw the board. So the idea would be she wants to have feedback on 3 topics: leadership, team dynamics, and culture. So we thought, okay, what if we create boards for these 3 topics, and people can add in the CAM framework, how do they feel related to each of those topics. And there was a thought also around having kind of also an evaluation possibility, no? Because it's not only about what can be kept at less and more, but also how is the general feeling about it. So for that, we also thought about having this on the top of the board, right? This kind of grade where people can use voting dots to put themselves on a spectrum to make visible how do they feel that that certain topic is working in that moment. So it would look something like what Julius is doing right now. And I don't know, what else? What was there for the interaction? So basically this could work asynchronously. You know always where this board is and you can go to it, but there is also the possibility that if you're in the office, you can get randomly paired with 3 people or 2 people, and you can go through it together and do kind of like boardwalk. That's the method that you mentioned, right?
Yeah, I mean, like for me, there is the boardwalk. I mean, to have these like 3 boards and kind of use this retrospective methods would make sense in a big workshop.
That's true. When you are 3,
like when everybody is there, and then you just, I mean, like usually how I use these boardwalks is that you have, in that case, 3 boards. Then I would split the whole group in 3 in 3 groups, and then one group starts at the team dynamics, one team starts at the leadership, and one team starts at the culture board, for example. And then you rotate it. So like 10 minutes, first round, then the team goes to the next board, fills in this, and just builds on the stuff that is already there. And then do like 3 rounds, no? So everybody had a chance to look at the board.
And to add something to each of the topics.
Exactly. And what's a good thing, what I really like about this boardwalk is also that you can change their interaction mode. You can say like, okay, the first round is just silently, don't talk to each other, just look at the board, fill in the stuff, because then they don't get into fights and conversations
details
about what is, you know, most important and stuff like that. And you can say, okay, first round is silent, don't talk to each other, just fill it in. Then the second round, I mean, you can play with these, no? And the second round could be
yes and
just add to the stuff that is already there.
Exactly.
And then, I don't know, third round you could do just visuals, no? Don't write words, just add visuals.
Or maybe even clustering, no? You could also use it for that to already have some more of condensation of data.
Yes, maybe you change the yes and to the visuals and stuff like that. So you can play around with these things and just try out different modes of interaction there.
Yes.
Which is fun. It's not always just talking and the same. But this is more like I would do this in a big workshop. When I think about like my first idea or like the first instinct that I had, that you do it not in a big workshop but throughout the year regularly. I think what we did for this one company was kind of we tried to set up a space, a dedicated space in the office for having these interactions, for having these moments of reflection and thinking about what is going well with the team dynamics and with the oh, I lost a button.
Another one. This jacket is shredding buttons.
Soon I'm gonna be naked here. What do I say? Okay, dedicated space to just have you know, all the tools are there. There's papers there with like already pre-formulated reflection questions. You can put it on the wall. I think we did a little board in the kitchen to do that. No, it's just a space where you can also, where you can see it all the time, where people hang out anyway. And I would suggest to just be very visual, you know, try out different have like, yeah, no, like maybe
like a banner or something.
Yeah, or like scales, no, like how well do you think the team, whatever your reflection questions about that you have in that survey, you can also do it like on a piece of paper with like a scale, no, and then people just need to put their dots there or something like that, no, and then in the end you could have a big heat mapping of how well people think the company values are reflected in everyday life. So instead of putting it in a workshop, make it like a everyday interaction. It's just like, okay, maybe, I don't know, this month I feel like the values are more present than last month. So you can change this and have different questions there. So make it more playful and exciting for people to participate in it. No, because surveys are really,
and also to participate when it fits better, no, for them. So I think this is our first idea. It's actually 2 ideas in one.
It's different ways of approaching it, because like I think what she was looking for was more like this kind of like big workshop, no, 30 people, let's do a company-wide retrospective, let's ask ourselves how are we doing culture-wise, team dynamic-wise, and stuff like that. And I think, like, you know, doing this boardwalk with a retrospective method could work for that quite well. And in the end, of course, you have a conversation about what you put on there.
I feel that could be a solution if for her it's also important to have this bonding moment. But if it's only about the data, then the asynchronous way can work best. But we don't know if that is something important. So that's why we thought about these two potential.
Speaking of data, do we know what exactly she's trying to take away there from this? Is it enough if it just shows like a very rough idea of what people are feeling, or does she want like hard numbers that say so much percentages?
Well, in the case that she, like in the conversation that we had, or in the email that she wrote, she didn't say any specifics about like, okay, what is in those employee surveys, but knowing employee surveys, I would think it's more like a, like a pulse kind of.
This is a good question, Rakesh, because I also was thinking, because I've seen how some companies are doing these surveys, and sometimes it is important for them to know from which teams these answers are coming from. So they can, because usually different teams struggle with different things and have different opinions, right, about that. So,
or even maybe sometimes ask the same question after different events like town halls, for example, so that where people are roughly with a certain trait or something like that.
Yes, and I think this is why this visual spectrum where they can put the dots could be a solution for having a feeling. Is it above the 50% or is it below? And if we color code the dots and each team has the possibility to have a color, you can also get that other layer of information about the teams, right? So I think it can serve different purposes in there.
I think this can also be transported virtually. I feel it's possible. You just need to think of maybe the right kind of Miro board to build, where people just do something similar.
Yeah, I mean, like when I read this and I was asking myself the same questions, okay, does she want to do something virtual or does she do something physical? And I would say, like, if I would be free to choose, I would do it physical, because like, it's a introspection. No, you can have time to be silent, to really think about stuff. In a virtual setting, I feel like it's sometimes it's very like outcome driven, and like
it's difficult.
Absolutely. Write 500 post-its and get it done, and 10 minutes left and stuff like that. So like but of course it could be done.
No, this is the perfect use case to demonstrate that offices still have certain uses.
To come in for the retrospective.
Exactly, because
actually
it's a nice space. It actually reminds me of, in airports, you have these prayer rooms or things like that, where you can actually go away from all the craziness and just have whether you pray or not is a different question, but it helps you move away from the craziness that's happening, and you're able to find a space that calms you down. Something like that. That's what I think of, because this is so. It's a great physical experience, right? And I could even imagine this happening in a public sense, where imagine there's a space for this, and anyone can book it and come and say, hey, I just want to do my retrospective with two people I know, because it's very hard, first of all, for people to find the space, the time, and the structure to do something like this. They're always waiting for someone else to tell them.
That's actually a great idea, because I remember when I was working in Nestle, we used to have these A0 posters made of this material that you could write and erase from.
Yeah. Okay.
And this was a big template that we use for personas, for user journeys, all that. And sometimes people, when they were having their own workshops, they will get the templates from us to use it. So this could be something like that, like there is this massive template. If you want to do a retrospective on site with your team, it's in this room. You can also borrow the template and use it. I think that's that.
Yeah, it's for me. I'm thinking it more like a museum exhibit, that's traveling all the time, or it's either fixed in one museum or it's traveling. So you can just go wherever it is. And maybe it's even something like that should be provided by the town hall or something. That would kill the experience. But just thinking wild here. And I really love it. I think the idea is very simple. It's, you're forced to move. You can also reflect a little bit. Just to finish the idea stream, what I thought of was I'm working on something similar in the sense of leadership. So what I've noticed is that feedback streams are great in places where they know really how to do it well. But if they don't know it, they end up just talking about the content of the work. Or like, oh, did you do this? Did you not do this? Did you do it well? But it's very hard for them to move to the next level of how, which is actually what you really need, right? So there, I was actually thinking, this is an experiment I even want to try in another project that I'm working on. It's based on mean tweets. This thing where celebrities come and read mean tweets that people have written about them.
Rakesh, now I'm curious. What are you thinking of?
So I'm thinking, imagine if someone in the leadership, like a CEO or something, and actually comes and reads these mean tweets about them. Then the rest of the people feel this, this heaviness drop down, and they're also able to go in and feel lighter, and they're also able to have a more, the walls sort of fall down, and they're able to say critical things in a much better way, and they know that it's fine to say that. This is not meant for all kinds of cultures and spaces, because I think it works in places where, for example, there are cultures where people don't say no that easily, or they don't want to say something against the leaders, or they think that would have an impact on their job or other things like that. So for that kind of a culture, I feel this could be a nice way of bringing those walls down. The leader showing vulnerability, and that kickstarting the employees to have more real conversations rather than just telling things that they feel will be soft and nice.
But the next step then be would the next step then be like a roast?
Yeah, why not? Yes.
That would be awesome.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
That needs to have a good, really, really good culture.
Yeah.
And to be able to do that, because what I see on TV sometimes, I mean, they're so mean.
Yeah,
mean.
Sure.
And it's very specific. It was just a funny.
No, that's love that.
Funny thought.
Really
I think it can be a good idea if also humor is part of the culture,
Yes.
Because a roast that is mean is not a good roast.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of RuPaul Drag Race, and they do roasts there, and that is always the feedback, and I can feel it when the comments are just mean without the fun side. Then it cringes a bit, but I think it can be a great exercise on how to practice radical candor also.
Yes.
I think that could be a great format to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And when you mentioned the mean tweets, I wonder if in order to start this process, there should be some sort of warm up at the beginning, you know, something to add there that people get in the mood of sharing this, what is not working so well, because otherwise the risk that I see now is that it can stay very shallow.
Yeah, true.
I don't know if you have any ideas for that.
Not really. So I was thinking of this in the context of, so I just ran a town hall last year for one of my clients because they requested it. And we tried to put two things into it. One was creating connection between the employees because they were all sitting remotely in different places. And the second thing was create a vulnerable space for the founders to also share. And it ended up being too much. So I thought, let's split it up into two, and let's do one part of just the founders sharing with the employees as a sort of live talk show, in which you can have this element of mean tweets. Maybe before that, there's some sharing happening about how the organization is working, etc. I don't know. I haven't completely thought it through, but great point. Now I'm going to go think about it.
I can remember that from our work with Kyron, and then this is relating back what you said earlier with the prayer room. The space for people to have a introspection or like think about what is happening, also like in the company, also with them, how it reflects on them and stuff like that. This is something that is crucial because we did a growth process for them, or like a performance review, but we found out like it's really like the step before all that, really think of what is working well, what is not working well for me. This is something that takes a lot of mental energy and some guidance also, and also it kind of relates back to the company values and the strategy, because people don't know if they're doing well or like how they would judge their performance, for example, without knowing what the strategy of the company is. Where is this whole thing going? But this is not the point. The point is that to make that time, we kind of designed a huge poster with like reflection questions where you can like flip them open and kind of go through them, and you have it in front of you on a table, and then you can see, okay, this is what I need to do now. This is like a big thing, and I need time, and I can relax now, and I can explore these. And we found out that these kind of like, this poster, this bigness of the poster, and also like that you can go through it, made them feel, that this is something that takes effort, that they need to do, that they can do now, that they get granted the time. And I think this is reminded me a lot about what you said about this prayer room. Make really like a not safe space, but create an opportunity for them to do it also.
Yeah. Yes, and like you said, it could just be the kitchen. I really like the idea of the kitchen.
What should we do next, Julius?
I would have two thoughts on this. The first is do we do it on site or virtual, or I'm dreaming of a really inclusive and immersive things where we not really talk about whether this or that, but where it's really a flow. Because when I look at my work and how I'm working with colleagues, even before COVID, there were always people on home office, or there are always people living not in Berlin. Most of us in Berlin, not all of them. And there was always the discussion of traveling. These colleagues were traveling to clients anyway, so then they had again to travel. Sometimes there wasn't the budget. So I'm wondering if we can really marry both things and in the future not talk too much about it. And of course it needs a technical setup that's really challenging, but the solutions are there. and where it doesn't really, people can choose also what's their taste, their circumstances, where they're working at the moment, even what the day is, to decide if they come into the office and have the physical experience with the room, which I love, like a really quiet, specific, dedicated room, or if they do it from home and have it mixed up, because also the virtual setup has some advantages. Right, of like you can do even the silent doing, you can even do better because people are sitting at home and there's no bias with the voting and all the stuff.
True.
So I don't know if it's naive, and it's, of course, it's also the setup in the company, but in my company, like for many, it's hybrid. But what does it mean? To me, it's really bringing those things together, and in terms of also be more fluent in the terms of timing, what you said, Julius, the asynchronous. You can go there before a workshop, you can go there after a workshop, you can always look at the boards, whether it's physical or well, physical in terms of a screen, and that could be like a Miro board, and that's always there, it's always on, kind of, yeah. And or you can combine of writing physical sticky notes, and they get transformed into something digital.
Yes.
And it could be like a like a whole program, I think, of a combination of before a workshop, series of workshops, like a cadence kind of thing. And the second thing I'm always think about this retrospective is what is done then with the data. So people put their heart out, they write what they think, they're brave. What then? How does the leadership or anyone pick it up? And there's a lot of disappointment that things don't get picked up from this retrospective. So in my company, we have a survey, employee survey, and after that we picked up certain problems, and then a whole initiative started, and a whole series of workshops and working groups actually to change things. And I think that should always be clear for a retrospective.
Yes, I think that's both are super valuable points, because I think one of the reasons why people might not participate in surveys is because they think, like, what's the use, right? And maybe if like making it explicit what will happen with this data at the beginning, so if you know, this will create the engagement. So I think that even for a survey or for this concept, that would be actually crucial for the participation. And when it comes to the hybrid work, thank you for pointing that out, because I think that is what is called the future of work, sort of, no? Like every company, I think, when possible, is going into this hybrid mode. So definitely, I think the question is no more either or, but how can we provide the same experience for people at home and for people in the workplace? So I think that what I take away with that comment is that now we need I will be more mindful to design for both, because that's the reality, no?
That's the default, I would say, that we have to think of both, or even hybrid first and physical later, because that's literally becoming the default mode. And also, listening to Alexandra, you're absolutely right. The after the results that gets such less attention, there should be more communication about what really happens with the results, or there should be a certain space that is already, dedicated for it, where people know that, oh, this is where I can go see results, maybe, or they at least know that they'll get something out of that. This communication would be the bare minimum there. And just to tie it all up together, keeping Berlin in mind, I think this whole idea could take the shape of an art installation.
How?
Both physical as well as online, with a sort of Zen monk figure leading the whole process physically, through the three boards in the physical world. At the same time, you can book a time slot with this Zen monk person who will tell you the instructions of how to do it, how to prepare for it online, and also do it, say, on a Miro board or something of that sort. So yeah, I think that's
Wow.
like fun.
I love the analogies.
Just to do it just because.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it also puts people in a different mindset. No,
Yeah.
would make it maybe easier if it's, you know, if it's kind of surreal. Also, it makes it would. I could have the, you know, this could be easier for people to express themselves because they think it's not so serious.
No, what really struck me, Julius, was what you said about this takes time and preparation, and you need to be in a certain mindset for that. You can't just treat it as yet another task and go from, oh, I just finished this Excel sheet and now I'm going to go to the retrospective. That's just not happening. Even if you do that, you'll get very low value information out of that, even for yourself, right? So I think it's something it needs preparation. So that means you have a few prep steps before it. You need to arrive at a certain space. Then you need to connect with, okay, are these the things I want to share? And then you need to sort of check out of it. So I think it's a very, it has a certain seriousness to it.
Yeah. Yes. And maybe we can spend the last few minutes brainstorming about this, what the point Alexandra made, this kind of, okay, how to best get the results out of it, or like, you know, how to preserve the biggest insights or stuff like that. No, because I think this is why you do it. I mean, of course, you know, the whole process of reflecting for the participants is important, but how can you get the insights out? And I was wondering if you have any best practices, ideas, Alexandra, how maybe you want to share how you did it in your retrospective. I know one method that we used is this kind of that you kind of like there's different flavors of this kind of letter to oneself, but it's not really to oneself. So like in the end, participants write like a personal statement, or like, you know, they make their own conclusion from what they've just heard, what would be a good action to follow up, or like a consequence, but they hand it over to the organizer and stuff like that. So it's like anonymous, but it's like everybody does their own kind of follow-up actions. So you don't have to kind of in the workshop, or like if you're in a physical space in a big meeting, you kind of don't have to agree on the most pressing issues, but you kind of have, you know, everybody's opinion. This would one thing that comes to my mind right now. But Alexandra, I'm curious what you did.
Well, it was very classic. We just had, you know, out of all of the problems that were mentioned very, very openly. Offsite, I created how might we questions, and then we kicked off like really work streams and said, okay, who, like in the follow-up workshop, people could write their name on a sticky and said, okay, I want to work in this group. I want to work in this group. I would like to take the lead. And then these groups would meet in follow-up sessions, and they worked for quite some time. And then we pitched this all back to the leadership. This is what we want. This is what we think should change. And so that was a very practical way. What comes to my mind when you say the letter to myself is, I mean, these retrospective could be, depends on how the team is, could become negative. And it's good to put all like brain dump, all the negative stuff out of there. But then it's very important to end on a high, right? So the letter to myself could be a high, or what is also the classic is the like imagine how a positive future could be and do the future press release, or the future like the like a magazine cover stuff. I think that's a classic. To just crazy dream of what the future could be after everything's changed and everything's for the better, and what we have reached within a year or so. Because it's my experience, it's good if it ends up on a positive way, and not like, oh my gosh, yeah, it's all so awful. Now we all said it. Great.
No, yeah.
Like,
Endings should be on a high, for sure.
I also did a retrospective on a it was kind of a more serious incident, and it's really heavy what can come together. It was like an incident effect, but it was also the whole culture and whole organization stuff came up, of course. And it's important then to have a good follow-up, I guess. That's
Definitely.
Okay.
And building up on what you just said, Alexandra, I think for the whole retrospectives, it's always good to use this appreciative inquiry mindset. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. It's like, I don't know a lot about the methods in there, but I think like the whole mindset of appreciative inquiry is that you don't work so much on problems that are happening, but you look for what is working well and try to boost that. So, and I think like looking at my work and how I structure workshops and stuff like that, I try to have in the beginning of the intervention or whatever of the design, what we're doing is to create this positive mindset, or like the perspective on not always like, okay, this is a problem, how can we prioritize them, but work from something, look at the good stuff and try to think, okay, how can we make this even better? No, don't ignore the problems. That's not part of not part of how it works. But it's like, it's nice to like set them up, like the perspective or like the mood from the beginning on into like, okay, we have something good here. How can we make it better? And of course, in later on, you can also talk about problems. Rakesh, you also unmuted yourself.
No. Just was keeping it mute because there's a lot of background noise here.
To that point, Julius, I'm reading a book, Positive Intelligence, about how we should not stay with too many negative thoughts, but move on. And he gives the comparison with putting a hand on a hot stove. Of course, it's good to recognize that it hurts. This is because you need to move on, but to stay with the hand is stupid, right? And I think also for teams, for individuals and for teams, it's just not healthy to stay, because kind of it builds up. If everybody's talking about all the negative things, it gets worse within itself. If there's never any solution. And I think with these kind of workshops, people get more and more disappointed.
Yes.
At least in my company. One more of these workshops. And again, we were talking about, because it's always also hard for them to open up and even to formulate the sentences. It's work, right? And if it's not rewarded with change, then
I think that's a fine balance there, and that's where ownership will be important. Like, who owns those themes or topics that come out of these sessions, and who's held accountable at the end of the day, so that people can see that this is happening. Or otherwise, exactly what you described, Alexandra, is it's going to be more and more venting, and it's like going into bitchy gossip sessions without any actual thing happening. And I've seen this mostly in a smaller startup setting where like sometimes there's a phase in the growth of the organization where the founders stop listening to the team. And then there's a certain part of the team that sort of gangs up, and they're like, hey, we want you to listen. And they start putting their demands together and like, look, we want you to listen. And the founders make this huge show of listening, but don't actually listen. And that's a spiral that keeps going on until it's not really controlled and stopped. So, and this has different scales in different organizations. You see different forms of this.
Oh yeah,
Something that your comment triggered in my mind, Alexandra, was because at the end, why we're doing these sessions? We're doing these sessions also to help people that are doing this, maybe not getting started, but like they're working in this field of creating workshops to have more tools for a sense of how do you create a good workshop. And your comment about ending the experience on an end, and ending the experience on a positive note.
Oh yeah.
Was reminded me of this, that sometimes I do it so intuitively that I'm not aware of it anymore in order to express it. But I think what I want to say is that whenever you're creating a workshop, there is this experience design principle or knowledge that if you end on a high note, most of the things that went bad are going to be forgotten or not have so much important value. So if we are talking about keeping people engaged, because the idea is to make this type of feedback something recurrent in the culture, it's important to leave on a high note, because otherwise people are not going to come back. And I think it was very valid what you said about it can really spiral in the negative side. And I think it's important to flag that as a risk and have it in mind when preparing the workshop, because it's really,
Yeah, to me it's always a matter of time, isn't it? It's like, do you know these workshops where like even it happened to me that I didn't do the timekeeping well or didn't plan it well, and then in the end there is not that time even to do something to end up, and then it's like people, I have to leave, oh thank you, but I have, and it's like and it's so bad,
yeah,
and like this.
I
And
feel you.
So that's always my learning, to be very, very conservative when it comes to time and not to put too much in it, rather really have that, I don't know, 10 minutes, even 5 minutes to do something. Like even in mural, the confetti stuff, that's cheering up people so much. They love it so much. I want to see more of that. Yeah, that kind of, it's a silly reward, but people don't need too much. Yeah, so this, even to have the time, so that really was my learning in lots of workshops. It's worth it.
Yes, definitely. You need to make time also for reflection at the end, no? Or like if you have something, this is important stuff at the end, no? And if you're not good with, like, if you see that something is not working out time-wise, like I think a good practice is also like to have a prioritization, at least in your head, what you could skip.
Oh yeah,
so like
yeah.
But never skip the closing.
Never skip the closing. Exactly.
Yeah. Totally.
Have a defined end of this experience. Speaking of good timekeeping, 2 minutes to 12. Alexandra, can you just quickly restate the name of the book that you just mentioned? Emotional.
Oh, that's
Positive Intelligence.
I have it in my bedroom, so I don't have it here. It's Positive Intelligence by Shirzad.
I can Google it. I just need the title.
Yeah.
Positive Intelligence. Oh, okay. So we have it in there.
It's really, he also has a website. He also has a little test. It's really, really cool. Yes.
Nice. Thank you very much. I think we will wrap it up here. I had a really good time. I think it was just it didn't go as we planned, and also we need to look in our agenda and maybe restructure the sessions a little bit, because I really liked how this went, because it felt very nice, good ideas. I have lots of new ideas about doing retrospectives. I hope you too. And yeah, let's wrap it up. Maybe let's think about one thing that we learned today, one concrete thing. Let's share that and then say goodbye, and then have a great lunch. Or Rakesh, you can also already start to have
Kaffee und Kuchen.
Yeah, it's tea time for me.
Tea time, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now maybe I can go first with learning. I think it's so much fun to just approach some design topic like this together, and I really had so much fun doing that. Just the idea that we're coming at it from completely different ends. For me, that was very, very enriching, and I'd love to do more of this.
Yeah, I'm so happy I joined. Really, I learned a lot. I love the board work. I love the whole idea of the workshop clinic. Really, please continue. It's good. Lots of good things are had in the moment. Yeah, and I'm really happy to see Rakesh again and Madeline. It was right.
Yes, Madeline.
Yeah, you approached me on LinkedIn like years ago.
Probably.
When
I was doing like cold email.
Yeah, it was like this. I remember this combination of design thinking and HR, like this, what do you call, right?
Employee experience, yes.
Employee experience. So I'm following you for years, and then I think I saw that Rakesh liked the invite, and so I think it is a great idea, and it needs to be continued. And I took a lot from me, and I have the mirror board. I will read through it again. I like you, Julius, how you moderated, how you supported the whole talk. It's really nice to see our thoughts written down there.
Yeah, thank you very much. I will add some stuff because I missed out on something, but I will listen to the recording and add the stuff that I missed. Thank you very much. What I learned is reward with change. This is the, retrospectives are hard work. So you need to, the reward for this is that things are changing afterwards. So I really like, it was very poignant. Alexandra, thank you for that quote.
And for me, maybe I didn't, I'm not going to say it like that. I like that it felt like brainstorming with friends, and I really draw energy from being creative with other people. So this is what I love about this format, and I want to have more of this experience. It's a good energizer for me, so to say.
Absolutely.
And
likewise,
what I learned or relearned is the importance of thinking of workshops as experiences. And that you need to have a beginning, you need to have an end as well, and never skip the end. And think mindfully of the end, because you want people to be engaged and to come back, and to, if you are really asking people to put the effort to open up, that is also a very key point that you mentioned, Alexandra, that it takes effort to open up, then make them want to come back and share with you. And for that, having a good end is very, very helpful. So thank you for that reminder.
It's a reminder to myself also. I do it wrong so often.
To all of us.
Yeah. It's crazy what you have as a facilitator, kind of like the implicit knowledge that you know, when you create an agenda and you have done it so many times, you don't really think about it anymore. Just this whole like being appreciative, like doing warm-ups, like which warm-ups you do. It's a lot of knowledge that we have in us. And then I think this is also what I want to do with the clinics, just share it, because
verbalize it, no, make it explicit, the implicit knowledge. I think this is very important also because at the end, this is a social learning space, right? And this is what we're also looking for, to be able to make explicit what the implicit knowledge that we all have. Having said that, 4 minutes. Thank you for coming, and thank you for being the pioneers of the clinics.
That's the word today.
Exactly, trailblazers.
They should add confetti in Zoom.
Yeah.
Let's do one picture, man.
You can do like mini confetti.
Yeah, true. Where is that? There.
Reactions, yeah.
Where is the reaction?
Yeah.
So yeah, spread the word. We will be here next Thursday, and I hope we will get a new case. I will post it on LinkedIn with the recording and stuff like that. And I think when people see what we do here, actually, it will become more clear what this is also all about.
Exactly.
True. Yeah.
So I'm
Take
very
some time.
hopeful that next week, if you want to come again.
Sure.
But I also hope that we have a few more people and we have more brains to pick from. But not too many. I think 10 is a good number.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Rakesh,
Thank
see
you, people.
soon. Have
Bye.
fun in
Take
Have a
care.
great day.
Ciao,
Bye.
ciao, ciao. Thank you for
Bye.
coming.